It is the 8th of January 2025, and a new season of Counter-Strike is ahead of us. Unlike anything we've seen in the past, we're going back to an open circuit. There's lots of interesting things that are happening. There's a whole different ranking system, and there's a brand new podcast for you all put together by myself and Devilwalk. It's all about Counter-Strike. And when I say all about Counter-Strike, this podcast will really be everything. Anything you can think of, whether it's the updates, whether it's new skins coming in, whether it's charms that Devilwalk loves so much, we will be looking at it. We will be taking into account some of the changes of things that are happening, and obviously all of the esports side of things, the tournaments, what's going on, roster moves, how things are developing. Me and Devilwalk have known each other now for 10 years since we did, maybe 11 years since we did our first interview, back when he was on the Fnatic roster. Obviously, he won the major with Fnatic as a player, won the major with Fnatic as a coach as well. The only person to have ever done that. Look at him smiling away. He hates when I do this.
Yes.
He has so much knowledge. He follows the game inside and out. And then I thought, well, we've been friends now, close friends for 7 years. We've even worked on a team together. So why
And we
not
like
put a
speaking
podcast together?
Yeah,
Yes, somehow.
we like talking to each other, so why not? No, but it's a super interesting year as well to do this and to start this kind of show and podcast to delve into things, because a lot of things are going to change.
Yes.
And I mean, there's a lot of things that we don't even know that we would love to, bring you guests on and kind of teach each other as the time goes on and as the year develops. So hopefully we can bring you all that and have a good time.
And I can tell everyone at home, we've got other podcasts. We've got amazing podcasts in the Counter-Strike scene.
Yeah.
This one, we're coming in a different vibe, a different way. We've got different perspectives and different thoughts. People know me just as the stage host and the interviewer. They know Devilwalkers, the coach, the ex-player, but we still love this game. And it's a game that has given us so much, mate, right? We've had our whole careers because of a video game, and we still love it. We still grind out, face it, and play a lot together, So I feel like doing this now, especially with the change of everything that's coming in 2025, it's going to be something that we get really to take off it.
Yeah, and a bunch of roster moves happening. We had the Evelone event. We've had it's crazy to keep up. Even Vertigo getting replaced by Train.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to talk about here. So we should just try to get into it, I guess.
Oh, yes. So to give you guys an idea of everything we are covering, some of the things that Devilwalk mentioned there, we're also going to be looking at the Blast Bounty, the first big event of the year. There's obviously a crazy format of that, a very interesting one. I'll be there as the desk host, then into the stage host interviewer role, coming into the latest segments of it. Dev already touched on the Vertigo versus Train situation. Obviously, the map pool changes. Roster Mania, just over this Christmas period, has been so much fun to follow. On stream, we've been asked a million times, a million questions around this. And the Valve ranking system, our thoughts on it, kind of how it's working and what needs to happen with it, because it's not quite the finished product. But to start with, the cup we covered together that was very unexpected. And I think I should probably tell the story first on how we came to cover the Evelone Duo Cup 2025. So I knew nothing about this cup. I had no idea what was going on. To us, it's like chill time. We were just streaming. Me and Devil were just relaxing. And my wife's brother is a big fan of Counter-Strike, obviously Ukrainian guy. And he's messaged me and he goes, bro, you know Evelone? I said, yeah, I know him. He's like, he's doing this Duo Cup and he needs English commentators. And I'm like, well, I'm not really a commentator. He's like, you should ask him though. And I'm like, okay, let me hit him up. So I hit Evelone up on Instagram. He does follow me. I haven't spoke to him. I spoke to him a bit at Shanghai Major. And then I also was at Symbol's birthday with him. I think that was 2021 though, so that was ages ago.
Yeah.
But then he didn't reply. He didn't hit me back on Instagram. So I hit Munacy up on Telegram and I'm like, Ilya, help me. Get me in contact with him. Because obviously Munacy was playing in the tournament. Instantly, he gets me. Evelone hits me up and he's like, yeah, you can cover in English. And I'm like, sweet. And then I thought, wait a second. This is going to be very long and very boring if I do it myself. So it's like midnight in Ukraine, probably 11 p.m. for Devilwalk. And I'm saying,
I was in my couch over here behind me and watching a Beck movie. For the Swedish listeners, they will know what that is. It's basically like a Swedish criminal show or movie series, I guess. There's like 51 or 52 of them movies. So yeah, was watching that. Got a message. My girlfriend slightly annoyed having to pause the movie all the time, like, are you done? Are you done? And eventually, yeah, just agreed to jump on and kind of get into Counter-Strike after the break. So it was a good warm-up. I loved it. Got to see some new talents pop off, and obviously seeing like Donk and Monacy in the same team, you see just how even if there's some teams they have these like really good players in them, just
Yeah.
seeing Donk and Monacy was like next level.
Oh, it was. And let's start with looking at the format. So first of all, Evelone put this on. He obviously has his sponsors and stuff during normal tournaments. He was doing the major, and he's one of the most subscribed people on Twitch, or like total amount of subscribers or something. I was hearing. It's what I've learned. Maybe I'm not 100% sure on the information, but either way, he's got a big following. Like he had 120,000 people watching just this, right? So he put $200,000 of his own money into making this Duo Cup, and he messaged loads of players, and said like, who wants to take part? Obviously, it's on the player break, so not everyone wants to take part. But if you look at the teams he got here, it was pretty damn legit. Rain and Brokey from FaZe, K-Tom and Magnojez. Magnojez obviously ended up standing in for Boros. We'll come to that a little bit later. Donk and Munacy, Yakinda and Ultimate, Deco and Tanir, Zello and James, Baz and Kiyosuke, and then Simple and Perfecto. Now, that is stacked, right? And 2v2 is very different. But when we saw these names, we just thought, well, Donk and Munacy is just a little bit overpowered.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed that way to start, and I mean, it most certainly felt that way all the way through, except for some maps that, obviously impressive from Bass and Kyosuke, who actually nabbed one map, I guess, from them in overtime on Mirage, and the rest were kind of some close, some were crushing defeats for them, especially on that nuke in the final. But they were impressive. I was also impressed by James' teammate Cielo. He was quite good, and we had another guy who was playing with Boros to start with, the K Tom or C Tom or whatever you want
Whatever
to
his name
pronounce
is.
it. Yeah, we haven't learned every name and their pronunciation. It's also fun the perspective of seeing a little bit more of Eastern European based Counter Strike, because we had a few kind of European based players or like West European, but most of them were East Europeans, and
Yeah.
that's not the first team that if I want to watch a game or an evening, I don't go and watch the Russian teams. Most notably, I'll probably stick a little bit more closer to Scandinavia if I'm gonna watch a game and have games to choose from.
But we were
So it's
very
fun.
sport for choice. And obviously, with Evelone picking out the players, to make it clear for everyone, these teams at times can seem imbalanced, but there was a captain of each team, right? So Munacy got to pick who he wanted to play with. And he just messaged Donk and said, Donk, come play. Let's go do this 2v2 tournament. So everyone got to go and pick the player they wanted to have with them, Obviously, that made them mega overpowered, but it made it super fun to watch. On top of that, it was $10,000 for the MVP. And then it was $2,500 per knife kill in a non-knife round, and we saw them start to go for it. We did see a lot of Dust 2. There was a lot of obsession with Dust 2. It wasn't traditional wingman maps, but it was like set up in this way for what the players wanted. Everyone was given choices. We even out of nowhere ended up with a best of 5 grand final.
Yeah, they just changed things on the spot. I think both teams agreed, let's just make it a best of 5, and they went for it. There was also the rule of we never saw an AWP because both teams
No.
had to agree, or all players, I think, had to agree, essentially, to if AWP was available for the game or not. And we didn't get that a single time, which, I mean, it's kind of understandable because it's like, the one that gets momentum is going to be the one with the AWP.
Yeah,
So
all
they're
the
in the
money.
lead anyways, and it's going to be just snowballing from there. But it was super fun, and you were bullying Evelone on chat messages during live games. Minus 2,500.
He was trying to commentate, right? And
Yeah.
what I didn't normally when you're in GoTV, the players can't see what you're typing, but in this tournament, the players could see it. So I thought, okay, yeah, there's a lot of money on the line, but I'm just gonna have my fun here as well. So every time there was a knife kill, every time it was overtime, I'm typing something, I'm adding something extra in there, bullying Evelone. watching it and having fun. And I think that was the main part of it, is that people seem to genuinely have fun, even though it was very try hardy. We got to just talk about, I guess, Kyosuke and Baz, because these are two players. Baz, by the way, used to be on Spirit Academy. We saw him back at the spring groups for Blast, where he stood in for Donk, who was getting his visa done at the time.
Yeah, and I think
And
he played in Bait as well
yes,
with MPL and those guys.
yeah, so he's a Ukrainian player who at the moment is now a streamer, full-time streaming. And for them, this is technically the biggest event. For him and Kyosuke, this is the biggest event of their careers in terms of what they can win, money, opportunity ahead of them. And obviously, Kyosuke is like the most hyped up player in Counter-Strike right now, because Donk's doing his thing. We've already seen him this year, but everyone's saying this is the next best thing, right? You can see some of the inexperience in him, but my God, the raw talent and the individual ability, he impressed us, I guess, even more than what I expected, because I'm thinking when he's going up against even a Donk and Munacy, oh, you're just going to get slapped. But it wasn't quite the case, was it? I guess only on
No,
mute.
and I mean we got a chance to speak to him. He seemed like a guy, kind of similar to kind of Dong's attitude. It doesn't matter who you're up against, doesn't
Yeah.
matter. Just wants to play, enjoy it. He's not thinking about the future or the past. He's just here in the moment, enjoying himself. And that was cool. Cool to get a bit of an insight to his mentality, the way he wants to practice, and we obviously were trying to poke and prod and ask questions about the future. What's the next step,
Mm.
But no, we didn't give us anything about that.
Yeah, for him, right? He's 16. He's still just enjoying playing the game. Someone tried to cook me on Reddit, by the way, and said, like, oh, Banks just asking basic questions. I want to ask if he's still enjoying the game, because, when you get to an academy team, when you're grinding out like this, it's not just about playing for fun anymore. But he is still enjoying this moment of practice, this going through it all, playing a lot of Face It. He's playing so many hours a day, he was telling us. And bro, his English was
It was
good.
really good, really good. I think
Yeah.
Bass English also was good. I'm guessing the quality of English in Russia and Ukraine has been popping off recently. These younglings, I
They're
remember,
learning.
back in the days, meeting like Dosha or
Yeah.
you know, people from Russia, they would just look at you, shake your hand, say nothing, and walk away. That was the interactions you had with the Eastern European players back in the day.
They were
But
very isolated times, man. They were like very split, right?
yeah, and I mean, there was a lot of ping issues and stuff playing online
Mm-hmm.
back in those days. There was you cannot play with like 60 ping, barely in
Yeah.
1.6. So obviously you didn't have that much. It was only Hooch who knew Swedish.
Yeah.
I remember he used to play. Anyways, good
I'm
to
I'm
see them with a
going
good English.
I'm going onto my Twitter right now, right? Because people lost their mind. This tweet I did has nearly 400,000 views, 4K likes, 62 retweets, and like 80 comments. Just imagine G2 sells their LOL team, buy Dong from Spirit, put these two on the same team. Just imagine. I even put little monkey like laughing faces. I was just like memeing and joking around, because obviously we got to enjoy watching them play and win the cup, win $120,000 for first place. That's more than the whole team of G2 won at IEM Dallas, by the way. That's how crazy this cup was. Monacy said it to us, didn't he? He was like, what's funny, Banks? I'm gonna win more money than Dallas. And I'm like, yeah, that's insane, isn't it? Because when you saw these two play together, obviously they're enjoying themselves, they're having fun, but it's just they're both so gifted. And you could see when they started getting going, the teamwork. At first, at one point, Munacy was the point man, then Donk was the first man in. Like, they were flashing for each other, the movement was there. It was crazy.
Yeah, I mean, they were so much more in sync with each other. You could see it, especially like in those like 1v2 situations, 2v1. They were a lot more fluid. They went with each other. They got the trade. Something a lot of the other teams kind of struggled with. They kind of rushed in to get the advantage. Something you do in kind of a 5v5 scenario to get the space quickly, but not really necessary in the 2v2, which Donkey Monacy just had on point. And also looking at, kind of that comment with Monesi winning Dallas, it was 100,000 for for Donkey Monster. But there are 5 players, a coach, an
Yep.
organization. Now we were talking about, an MVP. There was the knife kills, and on top of that, 120K for this 2v2 tournament. So they banked pretty much almost like it's almost
Nearly
like he banked
150.
like 2 or 3 IEM Dallas in that one, the 2v2 tournament.
Yeah, he stacked it up for himself. And then on the other side, for Kiyosuke and Baz, remember, what did they say? It'd be like being millionaires, they said? What
Yeah,
was the
they're like,
exact
we're
quote again?
millionaires
Yeah, we're
already.
million. Just from coming second, they're like, we're millionaires already. Baz is going to move to Serbia so he can stream from there and be close to his friends as well. He's super happy with that. Kiyosuke, this is just a nice boost for him, before he goes into his forward of his career and what he can do. You gave him solid advice, though, mate. You said, well, invest in a PC, upgrade yourself to the very best, put yourself in the best spot possible for it all. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, why not? I think at this point, I'm sure most people who play on that level have a pretty good PC. Either Spirit is helping them or something. They might even have
Mm-hmm.
PCs for them there, so it might not be absolutely necessary. But I know myself, like when I was playing pro player, there was a huge difference back then because I was playing. I think the first PC I had was like 60, 70 FPS when I played officials in CS:GO, which obviously wasn't enough. And nowadays with the new screens as well, like was it like a 600 hertz
Yeah,
screen?
brand new 600 hertz screen out now as well. It's kind of wild.
I'm still on my 100, no 240 I am on, but
240 is good.
still,
All right, that's respectable still. That's
yeah,
respectable.
I haven't even upgraded to the 360.
You just go straight to 600, mate. No problem. Once the
Yeah.
podcast takes off, you just bank it all again and go, go for the spending yourself.
I have to
But
see you in more frames.
yes, exactly. More frames, faster refresh, and also a big boost to everything else. In terms of looking at what we saw, though, an interesting video came out during the Evelone Cup. I think just the last words on that, it was a good, fun cup. A cup I'd like to see done more again, during the player breaks, during moments like that. It's a positive. But people started looking more at the movement of players like Kaisuke and Donk, right? Now, there was a video that came out from a guy on YouTube called Bird. I'm just looking at it now. It says, these two new movement techs will change CS2 forever. Now, he took this originally from Jame. Jame put out a video studying the movement and saying this is what these guys are doing. Some of it, though, is not like new information, but it seems to have kind of floated its way back into the scene. And it's about AD strafing and then swinging out without making a step, but you're going faster than if you just normally strafe left, normally strafe right. What, like, this is something that everyone should know, or people were doing maybe without knowing?
Yeah, I think it's both that you do it accidental because you have the like I think everyone knows about you want to gain speed and do the swings as fast as possible. That's kind of
Yeah.
common knowledge at this point. That's what you want to do. And especially in CS2, you have these peaks and where like, oh my God, he's so fast out and you have no time to react, or you
It's
might even
instant.
be holding, that part of the map and you have no clue, or you don't have the reaction to shoot him. Uh, but he was covering like 2 different types. One to just I kind of named it in my head the cradle. So you kind of pop out, but with the AD you kind of like
Yep.
boosting. I think he said around like 13% extra movement speed when he was doing it, and I'm sure you can
Okay.
perfect it and do it a lot better.
Because
Uh,
Donk has perfected it though, right? When I watch him do it, it's literally he's doing the perfect split in between where he's jiggling further without still making sound. Like he's putting it to the maximum before it would make noise and then swinging out on there. And if you look at him and you look at these young players, they're never standing still. They're not like us in old days, or even I probably still do it now, holding an angle, waiting to be peaked. Like they're always maneuvering themselves, they're always moving, and it's not even a small jiggle anymore.
Yeah. No, I think most pro players still constantly move, but this might be more of a like when you're on that window peak situation where there's
Mm-hmm.
no reason to really jiggle. But I know when you're going out ramp or something, you're still kind of jiggling your way in, and then
Yeah.
the strafe kind of comes, and it might be accidental. It might be something that all pro players know at this point as well. Because I remember in like early CS:GO days, we had the AD as well, but that was
Yeah.
more like AD while you were shooting.
Okay.
rather than the AD-ADing to gain that kind of movement or to
Yeah.
clear things. So I remember like I'm not sure if I'm correct, but I feel like after like the op movement nerf
Mm-hmm.
timeline where like Kenny S got nerfed to shreds,
Yeah.
um, that's kind of the point where they added this like kind of slow down going back and forth that you kind of dropped pace doing that. And I think it might not have been that doable in CSGO compared to CS2. Now someone might be able to correct me on that, but this is just my initial feeling on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm probably going to test it out myself after this as well. But could be an interesting tech for people, just starting to learn here. Never stop moving is basically the rule for Counter-Strike now.
Yeah, and these guys, they obviously they make it look so good. They make it look almost so easy as well. Then the other thing he pointed out, which I don't think is like this is what I think most people would know. Did you see it about the angles? So like hugging
Yeah.
close to the wall to not be seen. But that's obviously depending on the off angle or where they'll be looking and just limiting their field of view. But that's just normal. That's nothing in particularly special, right?
No, I mean, it's not really new. I think everyone, at least on a pro level,
Yeah.
knows about it, uses this to one extent or another. But I think it's mostly like I always like to take that example on kind of Inferno. If you wanna step up in mid, or at least the old Inferno was that the AWPer always held this little gap,
Yeah.
and you either take that, if you take the long, you want to peek him, you want to swing past him and kill someone close, you kind of use that close angle because you kind of gain more speed. It looks like you're faster at least,
Hmm.
kind of swinging past that angle. So it is used, but it's still interesting to see. And it looked like him on the clip that he kind of kept some pace moving forward and then strafing out
Yeah.
compared to just going close and strafing out. So that could be a part of it as well. But it's that's how you want to do it. That's what you want to do or play the game, especially as he explained in the video. If there's multiple angles the opponent could be.
But this extra speed, obviously, that we've been talking about being Pika's advantage and how you can get this. Do you think this is something they might nerf again or take away? Is this something where Valve might now more people are looking at it and seeing it and showing it, right? Because you said pros probably doing this unintentionally or intentionally. But if Valve look at it now, everyone's doing it, they're copying it from the YouTube videos. Is that something they want in the game, do you think?
I don't think they will nerf it. Maybe slightly, but it's not that significant, but still significant, if that makes sense. I don't know how to
It's
how
significant
to.
when perfected, when you're getting donks one compared to pugs,
Yeah, but it's
maybe.
still like if it's open and available for everyone, and it's just
Yeah.
something you need to practice, just like the movement thing on ladders. I think it's still something that's part of Counter Strike that we gain these kind of new uh, I don't know, technology, new tech to use because it's always been like that. Even back in 1.6, there was
Yeah.
always year after year something new came out, and you had to learn it and kind of go with it. Some people didn't like when like we called it Russian jumping in
Russian walking.
Sweden.
Russian
Yeah,
walking.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
The duck jump.
Yeah, exactly. You kind of just spam the duck jumping, and some people were like, this is not Counter Strike." But eventually, you had to just adjust, and it, it
Hmm.
became part of the game.
Bro, I played
Uh,
some 1.6 not too long ago. I do sometimes on stream, and we just do like 10 mans, right?
yeah,
There's public servers now that if you do it too much, it just absolutely kills your speed. Like you can't do it. You do it like 3 or 4 times, and then you're just blocked. So like they're trying to even cut it out still because there's a lot of these public servers that are still running, a lot of still old school 1.6 people who are loving it and enjoying it. But yeah,
yeah,
that was a wild time. But it is kind of the beauty of Counter Strike, right? When you get these new tech, these new things that are discovered. Even just like I think Rob said it on his farewell video from FaZe about like he loves just spending time trying to find new smokes, and he'll spend maybe 5 hours to find one thing that's the perfect lineup or something that he can implement, and he'll be at the forefront of this. He enjoys that kind of thing, and that's the geeking out of our game.
Yeah, and we don't want the same game for 30 years. We want it to
No.
keep developing, keep have new things come into the game without it maybe being completely based on updates. Like
Hmm.
that Counter-Strike is a mystery that needs to be unsolved in some sense, and there's new ways of thinking and new ways to approach it all the time. So I think that's kind of the beauty of the game, while some people
Yeah.
might view it as, oh, but isn't Counter-Strike the same? Hasn't it been the same for 30 or 20 plus years? No,
No.
it hasn't. It really hasn't. I think every year has its kind of iconic, way where we think about moments in Counter-Strike history that is
Yeah.
very uh, you know, definable for that year. And I think that's cool. That's awesome, and I think it should be that way.
So we really touched on this at the beginning of the show, Devil War, but Valve ranking system means there's a huge change to how everything is done in Counter Strike for 2025. For me, the old system of the partner leagues was obviously bad when I came onto the manager side for Bad News Eagles. It wasn't great for teams who are up and comers trying to show their stuff. I know you had to deal with that so much in your career, especially like outside of when you were not Fnatic. But like, at least when I was saying as a talent, it was great that we had storylines to follow. You were kind of getting the same teams with a few qualifier teams coming through here or there. But for example, in Blast through the showdowns, they never really did too much. Then when you look at like ESL events, there was a few teams every now and again that might get close to a playoff, might make through to the next stage of a clone or a Katowice. But it was few and far between if you compare it to the majors where you saw a lot more people jump through, find their form, have some success against better teams because there was more open opportunity. So
Yep.
overall, I believe the VRS is a good positive change. The dissolving of partner leagues is certainly a positive change for global Counter Strike and what it looks like, but it's still not perfect. But for you, right, who's someone who went through not being in these partner leagues and not being in a team that had a spot there, how does this make you feel when you see this and what's ahead for 2025 for people who were in your position before?
I think even looking back when they announced this was way back, like I think even in was it 2023 they
Yeah, they
announced
were
it?
giving them time for it to be end, right? So 2024
Yeah,
will be the last year.
yeah, exactly. So I think even then, you kind of hurrahed and said, finally, because I think it's kind of hard to understand how hard it has been for some teams to get spots and how close people have been and not been able to go to events, because I think
Yeah.
most events have been like one or two qualifying positions to join. I can even reference back to ESL days or EPL,
Hmm.
like Pro League. I think there was like one or two spots or something. We made
For Europe,
playoffs.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, and we made playoffs, and I think we got kicked out the next season because we only had partner teams under us, so it meant that the next team to get kind of thrown out was us,
Yeah.
and that's like, uh, it feels like shit when it becomes like that. I understand they had a contract and everything, but it just feels bad when you're on that receiving end. Um, so I think for teams now, there's not only that there's going to be a lot more ways to get into events through
Hmm.
the Valve ranking, but also in terms of PGL popping up as an extra kind of big tier event. Um, there's going to be, like when we spoke to Monis in Donk after the 2-on-2 tournament,
Yeah.
there's going to be some picking and choosing for events, and that's going to leave a lot more slots open for these kind of you know just under the line of breaking through to the next tier. So there are going to be a lot more opportunities to be able to see young players, maybe players that are even average online, but
Hmm.
might be elevated in a LAN setting, because there are some players that are like that. We always keep talking about these kind of players that crumble on stage.
Yeah.
That there are people who love that kind of energy, who kind of love the attention and kind of play better because they feed off it, and
Born
and
in the LAN environment.
yeah, and some of these players in this kind of tier two, tier three scene They probably never had that experience either. So it's going to be interesting to see if even some new talents, some new players are going to attract some new attention just
Mhm.
because they're getting chances to play on bigger scaled events.
But it is okay. We've got the partner leagues out of the way, but there is something still flawed when I look at this ranking, and I feel like my personal take is that I still trust Valve, even though many people don't, in order to get this right, but at their own time, with their own adjustments, at their own speed. Like
Yeah,
Valve do things in their own way, and they have a very unique way of doing things. But when I've spoke to some of the Valve devs, these are highly intelligent people. They're thinking about everything. I actually, bro, in Paris, I had a conversation with them after the event had finished, and it was maybe a good 1 hour, 1 hour and a half, where they pretty much were just talking about like the partner leagues and asking me about Bad News Eagles and what it meant for the guys and how important the major is and stuff. And did we even need an organization? So Valve themselves are very much, at least from when I was talking to them, like the idea that a team could do what being needed and not
yeah,
even have an organization. So like imagine it if FaZe we're no longer phasing anymore the organization, they just leave. And Carrigan says, I'm picking 5 players, we're gonna do it ourselves. We'll take all the money from the new contracts if we sign with like an ESL event or a Blast event or a PGL event. You know, there's revenue share on top of the prize money and everything else. And then you use that to fund yourself the whole way through. Now, it's kind
yeah.
of scary because if you did bad, then you might not be able to get that. But it is a way where you have potential to see some of these teams do well. You know, you could take players from top 10 teams now and just form a team that has no organization and you could
Yeah,
still be in a good spot.
and see more stories like B&E come through because it's
Yeah.
those guys they made an amazing achievement in like the history of Counter-Strike because no one's done it the way they did it. And I think yes, there are flaws, but I think we have to look at it. The benefits are greater than the deficits in a way.
Yeah.
Because I remember even I think these rules for how events now should be run and who gets
Yeah.
invited, etc. that they have is probably like a because remember when the Valve ranking came, right? It
Hmm.
was like BetBoom were hosting their own tournaments and always
Yeah.
inviting BetBoom, and it was like high prize money in these tournaments,
Yeah.
so that they would get pretty far up on
And they were
the
pretty bad tournaments as well. Like if you look at it, it was always like a Spirit or a Mouse, maybe a couple of others, but no one else was like a high value team there. So I never even took the people winning it as like a like when say I'm doing HLTV top 20 right now, even though Spirit and Mouse both won one of these BB events, I
yeah.
still call them like Mickey Mouse events. So I'm not putting that as like highly rated because they won that event,
But back then on the Valve ranking, it
It
would
was
have been a
huge.
very
Yeah.
highly rated tournament, right? So they got enough points to get into the RMR. And I think we're gonna see a few of these situations where people are gonna find gaps and holes in how they choose and pick tournaments and stuff. I think they've kind of covered the biggest holes, but there's always gonna be a few more they're gonna have to kind of think about and adjust. And I think that's only gonna come through using the ranking, itself more and more because
Hmm.
let's remember, HLTV ranking hasn't always been as good as it is now,
No, it took time.
Yeah, so we're gonna have to be a little bit more patient with it, and hopefully we're not gonna be able to see like too extreme abuse of the system. Um, but it is one of these. I mean, when you look at the differences and when we talked about pick and choosing events,
Hmm.
this is also gonna kind of determine the ranking in a way as well, because I think the main thing about Val ranking is the prize money, right? How much prize money kind of
Hmm.
establishes the points you gain from the event. But then they've also added depending on how highly ranked the teams are in the tournament, it also kind of accelerates the
Yeah.
points it
So
gives.
say right now, like I'm looking at the Valve ranking, G2's in first place. Yeah. Say none of the other top 10 teams go to an event they go to. Them beating teams that are lower down doesn't obviously give them a massive boost. Win the prize money would. But if they lost to a team who's like lowly ranked and they beat G2, they get a good amount of points, and it would massively benefit them.
Yeah.
So
So
if
there's
teams all agree together, like if orgs are talking and saying, let's go to this, let's go to that, and like who they're favoring more. Because remember, there's some like I think I'm trying to remember this off memory, but like PGL has put heavy money into the prize money, right? So they're higher up on there. But they're not offering the same incentives to organizations on like the revenue sharing, for example. So for a team, you might be looking at saying, yeah, the prize money is great at a PGL event, but then you're going through the revenue share side of things for the Blast or the ESL way, and that's better for the organization who's paying your salary. So it's also going to come down to who gets to make these decisions, like
But I,
who,
I think even an added layer to that is going to be that you know the players themselves, they want to choose the events where most of the good teams are going, because
yep,
that's going to gain them more points. It's going to be a more competitive tournament. It's going to have more prestige, and it's going to excel them through the ranking in a much better way.
yeah.
So I think you have that kind of thing from both the organization side and the player side now because of that, because everyone wants to be high on the ranking.
I will say this though, even with some of the ranking flawed, like right now, Navi is 7th in the world according to the Valve rankings, right? Obviously, I don't believe that's true at all. FaZe have gone all the way up to 4th. FaZe are consistent, but there's a lot of things I think here are not quite accurate. But it's
Yeah,
still a good basis. We've got the female teams who have made it through as well. Obviously, they're grinding out in the female leagues that ESL put on, but also they're playing a lot of other tournaments as well. They're trying to find their own way in. I feel like there's some adjustments that needed because, like Namiga, I didn't really see them anywhere all of last year, yeah, but they're 26th right now, so they'll have invites. You know,
yeah,
Nexus is another one as well. Like they're not competing against the best teams, but they're 28th. The top 32 spots are so valuable, and there is just some adjustment periods, adjustment points that are needed before we see, I guess, this perfected in the right way. But I do think we're already in a more positive step forward than anywhere we were last year.
yeah. I think it's kind of like striking that balance, because I still think you need to have this where a lot of people playing these kind of you know small tournaments that still give a good piece of prize money, like
Hmm.
these small like Hellcase or Res or whatever,
Yeah.
like these smaller tier 2, tier 3 cups. There should be a way for them to just win all these cups and still kind of excel themselves into the placing of getting a chance into a higher tier tournament. Because I don't think you should be able to just lock that off with, okay, I was in the first tournament in the beginning of the year, and therefore, no matter what placing I got in that tournament, I'm always going to generate enough points by winning 1 or 2 games
Yeah.
to just continuously get invites. I think there should be a drop off where, like this, let's say it's a 8 team event. I think
Hmm.
those like 7th and 8th place should still be able to be replaced by these lower tier teams. And I think that's the balance where you kind of need to strike, because I also think it's actually more interesting from a kind of storyline perspective to get this, like, okay, we got the kind of a debut for Nemiga at the land high tier event because they've been grinding all these cups
Yep.
going into it, and that's where storylines are born and stars are born. So I absolutely think there's adjustments to be made, but I don't want to lock it in.
And just today as well, Valve put out. I'm going to bring it up now. It's about the exceptions to the events.
Yeah,
You saw
there's
that?
quite a few of them.
Yeah, quite a lot of them as well. So here we go. Valve unveils exceptions granted for 2025 events. So EPL may directly invite some teams based on their performance in previous Pro League seasons. Same for the next EPL season. So, okay, the event may invite additional wildcard rosters due to the closed qualifier. IM Dallas, NA, and SA may be applied as VRS filters despite not being official regions. I think that's pretty good for the region, right? That's a
Yeah,
positive. Esports World Cup may invite the winner of Hero Esports ACL. I don't know what that is. I'd have to, no idea.
but if I'm
Um,
honest, like even if you're running through this, just to chime in, I think
mhm.
every tournament, no matter what, should be able to invite the winner of last season.
Okay.
Like that makes sense to me. Like
Yeah.
even if they, gone to shit or they, half of the team imploded or something, I still think they deserve a chance to be at an event that they won.
Yeah. I know also
Maybe that's just me, but I feel like that makes sense to me.
it's good way of doing it. I even think like for the major, right? The previous major champion should still be invited back. It
I
doesn't have to be
agree.
anyone else,
I
but I
agree.
think I think the major champion should always be the one invited back. I didn't like it when it was like the 8 teams made it back to legends, that didn't make sense, and then had to fight
Yeah.
out. That was too much of an advantage. But I think each major champion's getting back into the major without having to go through the RMR should be a thing because it's also just brilliant for the storyline. The
Yeah.
only thing I'm going to touch on here because Launders Land happened recently, and I love Launders. He's a good friend of mine, but it says like may announce operate with shorter time frame than required for tier 2 events. A lot of people were shitting on him because his event didn't go greatly to plan. There's some issues, right? That he had a lot of learnings. He's going to put a video out on his YouTube explaining all the things that went wrong. A lot of people were unhappy, especially because it was a VRS event. But he's doing something good for NA, which is heavily lacking events, especially LAN events. And the fact he can have like a shorter time frame, and he's obviously in good communication with Valve, I think that's a positive for the North American scene. You might even start seeing some South American teams fly out to take part in that.
No, definitely.
And they need a boost, man. They've been struggling for so long.
Yeah, but even now, like the EU lost a couple of spots in the major even. So
Yeah, exactly. The balance is happening slowly but surely.
yeah.
It's pretty good though.
But I hope it doesn't though. But I'm pro EU. I want more EU teams.
No, but I like a global Counter Strike. Like I'm really happy with what the Mongols are doing. The Mongols for me is a definition of hard work and doing the grind that was needed to time in Europe to improve. And they also want what's better for Asia. They want more spots in there, right? They've helped gain more spots for Asia again. They
Yeah.
can getting to playoffs was insane. It was a historical moment, something they can be very proud of. The only thing I'm not happy with this is with the exceptions, is like when there are exceptions, it does mean that they're admitting that the season that they're what they were trying to go into has some flaws. But I'm a big Valve fan that I won't like. I'm not going to hold it against them because, as I said, I don't think the system will be perfect till maybe 26, 27.
Yeah.
Realistically, it's going to take time to go through. We're going into a bit of unseen wild territory. We are still lucky that Valve is not doing what Riot do, for example, and hindering tier 2 scene and making things difficult for everyone to get into. This is hugely positive still for Counter Strike in how open Valve lets us be. And
Yeah, and I still think a lot of these like exemptions, they're not that big of a deal. It just makes a lot of them make sense. Like
yeah,
can't really question them a lot.
one thing
Uh,
though, because this will
yeah.
take us nicely into the roster mania. So roster mania is where we're going to next, and roster mania though obviously is impacting because of the VRS system. Because
Ah,
you want players who have points, so that when you have your team together, you still hold a position to get invited to teams. Right now, look at how Falcons was built. Let's start with them. Yeah, they took
yep,
Nico. They already had Magis. They had a terrible 2024. 2024 was just a big waste of money for this team. They bought out the Ents players, yeah. Took a core so they would have more points and they would get invited to the major. They did okay at Katowice, and then everything else was awful, Didn't work out
yep.
for them. Again, they've gone to another team. They took Tesses, Kixan, and Dexter. By the way, this is the best move Falcons have ever done. You start the season with Magisk, Nico, Dexter, Kixan, and Tesses. I am highly positive about what Falcons are doing with this team. Yeah. But
Yeah, me too. I mean, for me, it kicks on for sure. Like at least out of these three, obviously Nico he's a superstar, but Kixon, I have a lot of trust in him as an IGL. I think I've been talking to Stiko a lot when
mhm.
he was in Apex, and he gave me some insight from a conversation I had with him, and he kind of thinks that he's kind of like the new school or the new kind of generation of IGLs, and
Okay.
he had a lot of praise to say for him. So there's not a big surprise that he's getting this kind of monster move.
And my praise for
Um,
him comes from the fact that ever since I first met him, he was very confident in how he spoke. He knew what he wanted. He was ready to put his best foot forward. He's also an IGL that can frag out a bit. I
yeah,
think that this is obviously a huge move for him to be able to play with this roster and have these. Like, for me, the biggest thing here is he can learn so much from Nico, Magisk, and Zonic now. Like, you are given so much potential beyond what he could imagine in his like second or third year of being a pro.
Yeah, absolutely insane experience to be playing with, and especially having Sonic there. I'm sure Kick Sonic kind of, if I'm not honest, he's probably a little bit glavy, in the
Oh,
way that
okay.
he. I think so. I think there's
Why'd
at
you say
least
that?
a resemblance. Well, I always thought Glaive as a very mid-round base caller, kind of let everyone have freedom and in some sense, trusted some individuals more than others, obviously. But
Yeah.
I think that it's very mid-round caller. He gets an instinct and he goes with it. I feel like Kixan is very much like that also, and he knows what kind of information he wants on the map, etc. So there's definitely comparisons.
It's interesting though, because coming back, like for me, Falcons move very positive. People are always saying like, "Oh, this isn't good because they didn't get the players they wanted." Obviously, they were targeting Munacy. By the way, I can tell you this is a fact because I got this from someone very, very reliable. This was like literally as close as you could get to the source. Falcons wanted to offer 3 mil for Munacy, but obviously G2 couldn't. Um, take the blow of Nico and Munacy. And G2 do see, even though he's only got like a year up on his contract now, they still see Munacy as like the face for the future of the team. I don't know how they want to try and keep him, but I can also confirm this to you. And I don't know this. I know the money was spoke about, but I don't know if the other thing was spoke about that G2 went to Navi and tried to buy Bit in order to be able to keep Munacy. Because if you can put Munacy back with Bit,
Ah,
that's them from Navi Junior days. They're also super close friends. Like you go to any event and these guys are hanging out together outside of team time, Like they're that close. And that's one way they could have done it. But obviously Navi are like, no, he's our baby. Like we raised him up. He's kind of a, even though JL's the more talkative one, right? Bid is the star of that team in terms of the face and has been with the organization, won both majors with that organization. So G2
yeah.
couldn't get him. And so a lot of problems came the way of Falcons. But this is, yes, it's a worse roster on paper than what they wanted, but this is still such a very strong roster. And where does that give them on the? Let's have a look at the rankings now. Where does that put
But
Falcons?
at the same time, like, what are you supposed to be buying? Uh, it's one of these things where I think some people maybe look at names and maybe overestimate them a little bit,
Hmm.
because I think this is still like, you know, as high tier you can get players almost.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
They
There's no
might not
update.
have the like public appreciation like a Nico, but I think still, Tesses, Kixan, they can, and Dexter, they can still hold their own in.
Well, just say this: Dexter, he obviously had a terrible start, and people were just shitting on him because he had visa issues. I also didn't like the fact he had visa issues. Like, if I'm his teammates, I'm gonna be so annoyed that you couldn't get this shit sorted. He won't have visa issues now in Falcons. That's 100% right. They can. If I'm thinking they got money, they can solve these issues. But also, he
Yeah,
looked individually better. He'd got more comfortable with that team. He looked like the Dexter of OG times, getting there to that kind of style of play. I'm not talking about numbers because OG is obviously a different beast of a team. Um, but I will
but
say
would
that
you?
if they can't get Munacy, Dexter's someone you can still have and keep. Like you want Munacy, yes, but say Falcons still can't get him. Say Munacy says, I actually want to go to a Russian speaking team. I want to go to Spirit, yeah? Or he doesn't want to join Falcons just because Nico's there. Maybe that doesn't work out for him. This team is still something you can work with for the whole year.
Okay, but okay, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
If you would like, let's remove Nico from this team, right? You have
Yeah.
Tessus, you have Kixan, Dexter, and you have Magisk, right?
Mm-hmm.
And compare them to Snacks, Hunter, Malbs, and Monacy.
Oh.
Which team or core of that would you say is actually better?
Well, it depends which core, right? Because if you've got Munacy and Malbs, yeah,
Yeah,
I'd stay with G2. I'd go
yeah.
with G2. But
Okay, I
people
agree with
might
that.
question like if you said the core was Snacks and Hunter, then you'd say you'd go to Falcons, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
For me, Malbs' potential is so high. This dude hit
yeah.
like top, I think it was top 8, top 10? No, top 12 for the HLTV it was. Let me check. I need to get this right. Where are we at? Top 20. Malbs, where did he go?
Yeah, 12.
12. So Malb's got 12. We're only playing half a year on G2. He would be a top 8 player if he'd had the whole year on G2. He is phenomenal. And then you've got Munacy, who is baby goat, young goat, as we now call him. Like, he's the future and he's the truth. Hunter is doing his job. Snacks obviously gets a lot of criticism, but he still led the team to 2 trophies. He still has consistently had the team going deep in events. They did well at the major, all things considered, for NiKo's last run. I'm still looking at this as like G2 would have been the better option for NiKo, but obviously, oh yeah, theory craft this with me because we are older people, Devwalk, yeah?
Yeah.
I don't have any information on this. This is not what I've ever heard. This is just in my heart opinion when it comes to NiKo. He's 27 right now, still plenty of years of playing and still so insanely good. But if you think the rumors that I saw on the salary that NiKo could have, maybe he wants a kid in a few years. Yeah. Maybe he wants a kid soon. Maybe he is thinking about, okay, maybe I retire at 30, 32, something like that. Yeah. Why not do it where this team's going to pay me and give me everything I want? Yeah. Why not make my last couple of years absolutely insane and be the highest paid player in Counter-Strike, which I think and assume he might be.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you.
Outside
I
of
mean,
the
why not?
competitive side, but
But
even then,
even if you look at the competitive side, right? It's
it's
not
still
that
good.
much.
Yeah, it's not
It's
bad.
not that much of a downgrade, even if I'm not even sure it is. I mean, we're gonna have to see
which
how
one
they
do you?
actually.
Okay, go on, tell me then. If we say this now, which team do you think is better for the first half of the year? G2?
Well, I don't even know who the player of G2 is going to be.
Oh, well, it's supposed to be Heavy God.
Okay. Well, I'd probably say Falcons.
Ooh. Is that because of the kickstand effect?
Yeah, I think Kixon.
Okay. The kickstand
I
way of
have
leading the young
a
leader.
huge faith in Kixon, and
Mm-hmm.
to be completely honest, like I'm not even sure Snacks have been that much of an upgrade to Hooksy. If
No, stat-wise, we saw that definitely not.
so, it's it is what it is. But I still rate Snacks. He's an incredibly intelligent player. He always has been.
People are always throwing
Uh,
him under the bus, though, man. People are just like, he just calls this tactic. Oh, he doesn't know what's going on. Oh, NiKo's calling for him. Blah blah blah.
yeah,
There
people
was
like
so
kind of
much.
spin these narratives. It's the same like Taz is only a cheerleader and
Oh yeah.
whatever. It's
Well,
it's
like you know that as well. That this whole like cheerleader thing is they can't give you the comms on voice of what he's actually saying. I also think
no,
it's like
but
crazy that he's not even thought about for top 3 coaches of the year.
no, but at the same time, it's also kind of stupid is the word I'm using because I was about to
Mm-hmm.
say a worse word. But it's kind of stupid that just because a coach cheers the team on, whilst some almost, sitting there all quiet in his notebook receives more praise just because he's noting things down
Because he's
compared to
writing
the
it down.
guy that is actively doing more. I don't know.
Yeah.
I have my bias on that because I think that a lot
Mhm.
in Counter Strike, once you're at an event and actually in a game, it's not always you need to have, um, someone. It's not like a theory run, like he's explaining a strat, and all of a sudden
Yeah.
you're blessed by God. That's not really how it works. They know all of these things, the players. Sometimes it's about
Mm-hmm.
reminding, and sometimes you see people, they get choked up, they get caught in their own head, they get,
Yeah. They lose the
all of
edge.
these things happen. Maybe it's, someone makes a mistake. He's, light on his communication. You just have to fucking smash it in him. I want you to fucking use your communication right now because if you don't, we're gonna lose, and
Mm-hmm.
you don't want to, walk out of here and feel like I made a mistake there and there and there. You just have to wake up and you have to be aggressive. And you have to cheer them on, and sometimes that has a bigger effect than actually calling a strat.
Yeah.
Now that's not always true, but it is definitely moments where it's equally as effective as calling a strat.
And it's knowing when to do it as well. And I don't care. We spent a lot of time on the Falcons for her
Yeah.
G2 thing. We also got to look at the fact that Heroic have to now completely rebuild because They lost 3 players. It's Saw again who lost his 3 Ents players. Yeah. And now he's lost his 3 heroic players, but he actually loses 4 heroic players. So yeah, he lost a whole team both times, basically, right? Saw got the short end of the stick. Nertz is going to heroic. Likinda's out. This Nertz upgrade is huge. I spoke to Nertz. He messaged me back and he said he's just going straight in for Yakinda's positions. So it's just a 1-for-1 trade out in there. Now, people say that Nertz is not like a traditional entry fragger as such, but like I spoke to Twist during the major and it was on interview that he was saying that he's getting more out of players to play out of their comfort zone and do different things. I believe in Twist as an in-game leader right now. I think like in a very short amount of time, he's done a good work. And for me, this is just a massive upgrade for Liquid and also an upgrade for Nertz because both times the players he's been with have screwed him over and he's been the player left on his own. So it's nice to see him get a solid organization and a solid opportunity. I'm really excited for this.
Yeah, I think it's an upgrade for sure. I mean, I think we all hope Jakinder can kind of get that break and get back to the level he was at.
He was
Uh,
at the major, he
but
showed signs of it, but it's still not the old Jakinder.
no, but I think it's a fresh start. I think everyone probably needed it. They probably felt like, because you can get to that point in time, you know, where like you've been failing for so long that even if you just start performing, you have underlying issues, arguments, problems within the team and the people around it. So I'm not saying that's the case, by the way. I have no clue what's happening in the Liquid camp,
Yeah.
but there's always things that happen, especially during these rough periods. So I think having a little bit of a fresh start with Nerds joining is going to do them some good.
Yeah, I think it's just a massive upgrade for him. But it does also leave Shush again, as the rest of his heroic boys before left him. He's on his own once again. But guess what? He's not staying on heroic by the looks of it. It says he's able to seek options for another team. If I'm Astralis right now, pull out the fucking checkbook, sign it, take Shush, and you're good. You know? Give me Shush back on there. I don't even care if it's the Vice that goes. I know he's the star. I know he's the one they want to see perform. But like, let Katie and Orp again. Put Shush in. I'm all fine with that. Like, because when we're talking about VRS and how this is working, this has forced Heroic, who obviously, according to Overdrive, Heroic made more money than any other organization, maybe 10 mil in terms of selling players. Yeah, that's insane.
I hope so gets like 1% or
Bro,
2% of
he
all
deserves
that because
5%. He deserves
yeah,
5%. Because guess what? He now has to build again, signing a core that I don't know, Devwalk. I'll say this. I personally believe he would never sign the Sangao core if he had an option and it wasn't based on the VRS rankings. Yeah. Because
yeah,
that
probably.
Sangao core is not that interesting to me. And then he's got Sumpires. Now, he's worked with Sumpires before. He knows what he can do. The interesting part here is Nilo. Do you say Nilo or Nilo? How do you say it? He's your
I
Swedish
think
brother.
you can yeah, but I think you can say both ways. Probably in Sweden is Nilo.
Okay, so Nilo, right? Obviously, he's supposed to be a really up and coming player, especially for Sweden. We get to see him on a team like this. This is great for him, but it's like this heroic team can do okay, but it doesn't excite me at all. At all.
I mean, I still think in 2025, I think Sangol, that core with Nilo is still gonna be better than what people expect.
Really?
Because well, I think they're gonna get the opportunity at least to be playing on one of these big tier lands. I don't
Definitely.
think it's gonna be,
They're
completely
33 world ranking
waste.
now. And then you add
Yeah.
Sumpires, you add Nilo, it's going to give you a little boost. You got
And you have an
X-Fouled, LNZ, and
opening
Youngstar.
season, like it's wide open for 2025. So I think there's definitely gonna be chances if they're gonna grab them or take them. That I'm still like reserved about, but I still think they'll play a couple of events and we'll be able to judge them from there.
Okay, we'll keep an eye on them. We'll definitely keep an eye on them. I want to make sure we
Yeah.
don't spend too much time on roster because we still got so much of roster mania because the holiday season was crazy. Uh, let's do the Rops one because Rops left phase. He seems to have wanted to change. By the way, shout out to Phase. Your video you did as like a send off for him was incredible. That is what I want to see. If you're an organization who had a player for longer than a year, that's the content I want to see.
Yeah.
That's how you should send them off. Unless there was some real bad blood, then just give him a little Twitter post. But in general, like for what Robs has done for the team and how Robs is, like this was such a sick video put together. FaZe now want a liege. Now, I believe a liege, even though he's a bit older than saying signing a young gun or something like that, what I understand from him, he watches so many POV demos. When he went home, he told me he went home after the RMRs, right, to America before coming back to Shanghai. He was watching demos of seeing how these people play, how they have positions, how they hold. And I mean, people always talk about demo watching, but his seems to be on a whole other level. He's very methodical. Everything is like positioned the correct way on his table. He sits with the perfect posture. He almost looks like a robot with it. And he is, like, to me, a top 10 player easily if you give him a team he can do it on. So I'm not going to say it's an upgrade, but I'm going to say you can get more out of Elise than we've seen in a long time, probably, by putting him on a FaZe roster.
Yeah, I think he's been completely carrying complexity for quite a while.
Yeah.
And it's almost like he's almost gotten better. I don't know, during his time in complexity. I think I feel like he has more impact. I think it looks like he takes more responsibility in rounds and in the server.
Mhm.
So I really happy to see him in one of the biggest teams. I think he's been struggling a little bit on that complexity. But I mean, I see Elish as kind of like, there's different types of CS players. You have
Yeah.
the kind of flat throw, the if you put him there like a more of an ADHD kind of person that plays computer games, and the leash is more in that analytical, almost like he's
Well-rounded,
obviously
well
not
thought out.
autistic, but it's more into that area of like
Yeah.
very, like you say. Also would put like a player like Styko there, who's
Okay.
very like he's very in at least ROPS as well, in the way they play. Like they're so almost mathematical in the way they approach things.
Definitely. I can
And
tell you
it
this. Do you remember during that Krieg and Org meta we had? That
yeah.
Elise, it was like I did a first interview with him. I just got his thoughts on it. He was telling me the specific number changes, how the rate of fire works, and what he's predicting, how it will be used. And I was like, God damn, no one's broke it down to me like this. Okay, Elise. Okay.
Yeah, and I think there's definitely, I think that's why he just continues to develop and become so good. He's very, very, methodical in the way he plays and he thinks. You see that. So
Yeah.
really happy for him. I think it would actually be. He's a bit more fluid in the way he plays Counter Strike, though, compared to Rops, I would say.
Yes.
But so it's going to be interesting to see. Um,
It's
I
funny
think
though, because you when
a,
you're talking go on.
a lot of people also expected maybe even Carrion, or were worried about Carrion maybe
Because they did do a thank you Carrigan
retire.
video. Yeah, it had me kind of umming and ahhing, but I was hoping he wouldn't retire.
Yeah, I mean he's still got years in him. He's so well versed, experienced,
Yeah.
IGL. So yeah, I have no worry for him.
How many years do you think Carrigan's got left on a tangent?
I think it all depends on if he, because I don't think it's about playing the game. I think it's about the lifestyle. If he still enjoys the kind of
Yeah.
lifestyle of it. Because I'm pretty sure he will be playing Counter Strike even if he, doesn't play it in a competitive aspect
Yeah.
every once in a while. But the lifestyle is tough. Like
Yeah.
it's mentally exhausting, and I think it's all if he can balance that kind of work-life relationship, uh, which is tough.
And I do want to see here, right? We're on the 8th of January right now while we're filming this podcast. Elise hasn't been announced. He's still rumored. Rops hasn't been announced the Vitality. That's supposed to be where he's going. So we'll just quickly touch on that Vitality move. For me, major win, for Vitality. Spinks already said, I think it was back at Cologne, it was said that he was looking at other options. They went on to win Cologne, which is obviously huge. But there were some problems there. Supposedly, it was like around making changes. It was rumored about Messi, but I'm saying rumored because I don't know if there's any truth to it. And now Spinks might be in a position where he's not even in Vitality. He's just sat on the bench. Someone's waiting to buy him. No idea who that would be. While Rops goes and takes his place. Flames even gave a little thing on his interview to HLTV where he said it'd be nice to play with him one day, like kind of hinting at it, because it obviously isn't a kept secret. But how much of an upgrade do you feel like this is? Because Rops throughout most of this year obviously had his ups and downs. He was certainly in a slump. Rops at the major was in beast mode, and if he brings that for vitality, god damn, they're scary, man.
I think, I mean, drops to any team, doesn't matter if who you're talking about in the world will be insane to have on a roster. He's so good, and he probably makes life easier both for coaches and IGLs because of just
Okay.
how he approaches the game. You never have to worry. Like, let's say you have Rops in the squad, you're probably going to be like, what am I going to tell Rops? He's like clearing every angle, he's making sure everything is done, it's proper, it's methodical.
Yeah.
So I think you kind of you don't need, and he's so like explorative about the game, exactly like a leash in some sense, like he wants to find everything out.
Yeah.
um
And
but I
Carragher said
think
how
it's a
hard he works.
it's a huge upgrade, mostly because I mean there's been rumors, their personality don't really match that well on vitality, and they've been a little bit in trouble in that sense,
Hmm.
and that can like cut deep wounds, kind of, especially in these tough situations, and you don't really fight as hard and go as deep into it. So
Yeah.
I think that's also, as we mentioned earlier, like kind of a new start for them to kind of leave that behind, kind of you know take it under the rug, and they don't really need to clean it up because Rops is coming in replacing, and they can just focus on the future and not have that animosity in the past.
Yep.
And I don't know exactly what's been going on, but something hasn't been right.
Yeah. And that's where now we get to wait and see what will happen with Spinks. An interesting one, right? Away from like looking at where players are going and what's happening, looking at Cloud9 as a whole, yeah. If all rumors are true, Icy's already gone to VP. Heavy God's supposed to go to G2 that we mentioned earlier. By the way, I think that's going to be phenomenal. You put Heavy God into anchor roles, you put Malbs into Nico's roles. This is a team that can work and do well with. I'm just waiting for the announcement to happen. But that means that Cloud9 would just have Axile, Inters, and Boomich. Supposedly, there was rumors that Boomich and Axile would go off to another team. Yeah, it was Overdrive posting it. But that means Cloud9 would just be selling players left without nothing.
Yeah,
Inactive on
it
the bench
looks
is Perfecto still, who surprisingly hasn't been picked up, which is kind of wild.
it looks kind
And
of dead. Like I don't know where they go from here.
why just say you go to NA? You like if you want to sell off all these players, you're probably making money from selling these players, right? Boomich is a hot prospect for an in-game leader for the CIS region. Axel, he has had a massive drop off. He's not been like the player we saw online, and then 2023, 2020, yeah, 2023 it was where he was actually like top 5 in the world. Um, so yeah, like if I'm Cloud9, maybe you just dissolve this team, you sell everyone off, you make some money, and you go into NA because obviously that's where the organization's from. Bring us
Yeah.
back to some good team there. Would you be up for it, or do you think it just wouldn't be worth it?
I'm just thinking, what would they even? Because Cloud9 is such a huge org. They wouldn't settle for something average. They want something like the real deal instantly, and that's just how they operate. So I have a hard time seeing something in like NA that just pops out of my head that says, "Oh, yeah, Cloud9 should do that." But yeah, it's a tough one for Cloud9. They might even not have a team active,
Yeah, definitely not.
and
It's a huge drop off. And they tried to rebuild. I was wrong about Axel, by the way. It was fifth for 21, fourth for 22, then 23, 24. He's not there. He's not even in the top 20. So his drop off has
oh,
been unreal. Super unlucky. Obviously, so much change. He got Perfecto on electronic. He thought that was going to be great. It got worse for him. He didn't adjust well to CS2. It's actually like,
well, I think his playstyle is just like it's bad for CS2 because he was the
yeah.
one kind of he would just stand still, and whatever fucking popped on his screen would be dead. Like yeah, but he would kind of be like a bit in defense. He would be super good positioned in CS:GO. Would just destroy everyone.
Hmm.
Super calm aim, and I think what we mentioned earlier with this swinging and kind of like that donk movement coming into. It's been a lot rougher for him, and it just doesn't suit his style. We had the same things going on, even if we look at 1.6. I remember like Trace, for example, when he came to CS:GO. Just he was such an angle-based player
Mm-hmm.
that it just didn't work out for him. And I
Oh,
feel
it's
like
supposed to be. It's supposed to be BB, by the way, that would get Axile and Boomage, so they go together.
okay.
Mm-hmm. So
Huh.
it's an upgrade for BB for sure, but then the Cloud9 would just have inserts and groove there. You just let everyone go at that point, right?
Would
Like
they be
rebuilding
playing
that
with
wouldn't work.
I mean, it could be a decent team. Siren, Sorty,
I like Zorti.
this Magnogis, or
Oh,
I don't know.
Magnajez. Yeah.
Magnogis, yeah. That could be a decent team actually.
It's not bad at all.
I'm not against it. Could probably it has potential.
But yeah,
It's
so Heavy got to G2. I'm very excited for. I think it's gonna be great. We got some drama on the next one, mate. So Passion, obviously Ukrainian team, incredibly dominant team, which no one expected. They are losing Fear. And then S Chiller, I spoke to him a lot, and like he's got plans for the real world outside of just Counter-Strike. He put a massive grind in. It was like 8-9 months of them like living together, playing together, grinding out non-stop. They got their major dream, it happened, but that was it, It didn't go as maybe as far as they'd hoped. People were surprised by how far they went anyway. I was impressed with what they showed.
yeah.
It was like huge for a full Ukrainian team. But then Fear is supposed to go to Fnatic. Yeah. S Chiller obviously has put himself into the inactive side of things. They add Topper, really good, by the way. Topper's a good replacement for Fear. He had a bit of time on Ikla himself. He was playing in the main Ikla team, not the Ukrainian Ikla team, but he is a pretty good leader. I think he can work well with Kane. I think he can learn a lot from Kane. But then Kvem, who played on that Drillers team for the major, all the drama around them, he was
Yeah.
on Ikla. He's been benched or inactive for 11 months. He signs for Passion. Supposedly, he still should be in a contract or something. And like the Ikla Twitter was going crazy and saying like you shouldn't let him play in tournaments, all this shit. Surely, I don't know, depending on how long he's got left on the contract, after 11 months, and your org is also like, I don't think Ikla exists anymore in anything. Let me just check this.
So I didn't follow this drama. I think I saw like a post back in that, like a back and forth, like, oh, I'm a free agent. He is not a free agent.
Read this. Look, official statement. We regret to inform that Kvem has signed a contract with Passion without obtaining the necessary transfer agreement from our organization. Our legal team is actively pursuing this matter, and we will take all appropriate lawful actions. Furthermore, we're submitting formal requests to all active tournament operators to restrict the player from participating in competitions until the dispute is resolved. Bruh.
Yeah. I don't even know what to say about that. It's so like, it's almost like you have to see what the contract is.
Yeah. Because he says they breached his contract. So he says he's free. He said that on the 19th of November.
So like breaching contract could be anything from, it probably has to do with payments being
Yeah.
late or something. I mean, it's
Classic.
so speculative. Like you never know. You have to like talk to one or the other side what actually happened. But it's not a good position to be in. But I have a hard time seeing like Valve coming in and no,
Valve,
you
yeah,
cannot play
Valve won't care.
tournaments.
Valve are not
No,
interested in this bid at all, especially from that level of like. Even if it was a Navi, they wouldn't care. It's not happening, right? We'll just
and
have to see
it's
how it
not like people
unfolds.
are trusting ISIS right now. So
Or ESIC can do one.
ISIC, I mean.
Yeah, ESIC are sick, and they're terrible at everything they do. So they shouldn't be doing anything ever. That's for sure. I hate ESIC, man. No way we can trust in them anymore.
No.
We can move though because it's obviously related to Passion. Fear has been rumored for a long time to your old team in Fnatic. Body was already announced gone, so I'm guessing there's paperwork still going on with that. Fear, by the way, I've known him since he was on the Navi Junior Day, so it's like 4 or 5 years now, and he still gave me some kind of insight, gave me a little bit, but he still wouldn't even confirm it. So I've got no extra information. Manasi kind of like tipped his hat to it that he'll be on a top team, but then said to us, "Oh no, I can't say anything,"
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but for Fnatic, Fear is a huge upgrade. Yeah, I think this is a great chance for an in-game leader to use some experienced pieces and learn from them. You got Crims and Blame F on the team. Um, they benched Nork today, just before we started this
Yeah.
podcast. So they benched Nork, which I didn't expect. I think Nork's still a very good player. But the reason I'm thinking maybe they benched Nork is because did Fear say, okay, can you also take Jambo as well? Which means then Passion would lose Jambo and they'd need another player, then even Orpa. And Jambo goes to Fnatic because of Fear, because them two have been on multiple teams, even mixed teams together. If you go back to the Witchers with old Smoothron.
Oh wow. But I mean, so how would you say Fear is like as an in-game leader? What style do you think he has? Like, is he
I
more of a free-flowing mid-round caller, or is he more structured?
I think there's structure with the ability to let players do what they do best, but he's also that sacrificial in-game leader.
Okay,
You can always expect him to be like, he can be having the worst game or whatever. He doesn't affect the team. There were some games at the major he had like 4 kills, yeah, but he was still calling a good game. That's what the player said. He was still
okay.
calling to the top even when he was not doing well. He still put his players in positions they need to be in. So he's
It's definitely interesting. I'm wondering if do we think Crims, Blamef, Mattis, Jambo, and Fear can do some damage in 2025?
I'd hate to say this about your boy, but like for me, Crims is hanging on by a thread. He survived all these changes, but like he's
I
good.
mean,
He's still
he's
good.
been
He
there
holds
eight
on.
years and 2 months, and that's not. That's like there was an interruption there when we went to
Yeah, there was a
Godsend.
split, right? Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but like
So
I'm not
it's
saying keep
crazy.
Crims, but I'm saying at some point you've got to maybe say also he should go.
Yeah, I mean, I
You
understand the
don't want to say
point.
this, do you?
No, I don't want to say it. I think, I don't know what to say. No, but I get the point. I get the point. At some point, maybe there could be
Change is
value
needed.
into
Just a younger
into,
player.
but at the same time, has the team been good enough for him to shine either way? Like, if we put it that way.
True. He's just been good at doing his job, and you can always rely on him to do his job. And everyone I speak to says how nice and active
But
he is as a voice in the team as well.
But
He is a
he's super
positive
easy to
person.
play. Yeah, he's super easy to play with because
Yeah.
he will always give the right information, give ideas, and it's
Not a
simple,
tilter.
short, concise. He can definitely tilt, but there's
Bro,
difference with
he doesn't
tilters.
look, by the way, like when I see him on events, he doesn't look like a tilter.
No, but he can definitely tilt.
Okay. Okay.
At least he might not anymore, but
Yeah, I'm from
back in
what
the
I'm
days he could.
seeing.
But he's never tilt on like other people or anything like
Okay.
that. It's not the kind of tilt that will disrupt the entire team.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's more like a snappy, he slams the desk a little bit and he's done.
That's all right. We can take that. As long as
Yeah.
it's not every round. Um,
Takes
I think
news.
I think for I think for now that if you have Fnatic, Blamef, Matties, Crims, Fear, Jambo, it's a team I can get excited about. Biased because obviously the two Ukrainians in there. Um, but I think it's also a positive step forward compared to where they were. You know,
Yeah.
Fnatic's an organization that demands success. Well, it's been too long without success, so something needs to happen. They're also on the lookout for a new coach. Takeda's gone, so the coach side needs to be changed. I heard some rumors just down the grapevine that it could be Abdi, the old Metasport coach, Swedish guy as well. I like so much what he'd done with Metasport because they'd actually
They came
shown
with,
some good form with the players they had. They took all the players that other Swedish teams didn't want, and they actually found success. Not
yeah.
huge success, but like success where something was being built upon.
And they kind of came, I mean, when they started to come up, they kind of came from nowhere and then they just started
Mm-hmm.
to be super consistent, which is always a positive sign. That means that especially with all of these players being able to, they've been in other iterations of rosters, things haven't worked out, and all of a sudden they come together and it kind of just explodes for them. It's
Mm-hmm.
always a good sign. It means they're on track of something. And I think they've had changes of IGLs multiple times as well during the time, which means there's
Yeah,
at least an indication that the coach is doing a very good job.
definitely, definitely. All right, looking away from these guys, looking at what Fnatic might do. We then go on to Gamer Legion, who I'll say this: I think Ash is a really good coach. He has taken players that people thought were not capable of doing anything or giving them chances to succeed on a higher level. And he's always been able to get more out of players we didn't know about. He puts a lot of cool videos on YouTube. If you haven't seen them, check them out. I'm not praising him just because he's British. I think he actually is a super underrated
Well
coach.
edited videos as well.
Well, yeah, exactly. He's on point, right? But he deserves so much credit because they made it to all these majors. Yeah, they made second place at a major when Shuhei was leading, his first chance of leading outside of the Mouse NXT project. He was on loan then, but every time he finds success with some players, and by the way, him and his analysts are finding these players, bringing them into a tier team, and then they're getting picked up. Like they lost Flamus, who, by the way, Flamus was incredible. This guy was so
Yeah,
good. VP took him. My only thing
but
there is I hope VP don't destroy that positive little boy. I say
I,
little
I
boy,
think
but like
I
young
think
man.
you know, if you actually look at the timeline of the teams that he's had in Gamer Legion and the rosters, I think they've all overperformed, every
Yeah.
single one of them. Like, and
And he
it's not
deserves credit
it's
for that.
yeah, and it's not just by a little bit. It's like a huge margin.
Yeah.
It's going from like top 60, 80 teams picking up players, and all of a sudden they're in a spot where they're top 15, top 10 times, and he's been doing a unbelievable job. And yeah, can't praise him enough
But now,
because it's
now
so young players as well.
yeah, and but now he's got rid of his oldest piece, right? Not as in age of oldest piece, but the player that's been there the longest in Vault,
Yeah,
the Romanian Brit, whichever one he was, he's gone. And now they've
whatever he
got
was.
he changes, man. When he was doing good, he went from British to Romanian. Yeah. So when he's doing bad, maybe he goes back to being British. Just keep it all going with the memes. I'm only playing Vault. I love you. But like they've got ZTR. I super believe in ZTR. Obviously, he was there during the Academy League that I was heavily involved in. Towson. Was Towson the guy who like someone bought him a computer when he was like years ago to help him be able to do well? He might be one. I heard of that
I have
somewhere.
no idea about that.
Slender's been pretty good, but they get rid of Volt. PRs come in from Mouse NXT. By the way, Mouse NXT. Mouse is a company. They just keep making money, bro. They're selling players and making money. They have the
Yeah.
most genius. Like Spirit Academy is great for the output of players they have and the performance of players. Mouse NXT is a hugely good business decision. So yeah, that's a pat on the back for them guys. But the other rumor you said, who was it for the fifth player for Game Legion now?
So the rumor is that it's NIP's Res.
Bro, he's been there forever. Let me
Yeah,
look. Let me
and
look. He's the face.
yeah, he's basically been the face of NIP for I can't even remember how long.
June 2017. So that's 4, 5, 6, 7, nearly 8 years.
That's crazy.
Only one trophy, bro, and that was in 2017 when he joined. That
Evan
can't.
Forrest was still there.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Poor Res,
I
man.
think I
He
think I
wasted
think the
his
last
peak on
trophy
this
NIP
team.
has was with Forrest.
Oh, that's tough, man. Because they had an online trophy, but it's not a big one. It's that IEM Fall 2021 Europe.
Yeah.
So what was that? Who was on that team back then? Let's have a look. NIP 2021. Device, Res, Hampers, Plopsky, LNZ. Bloody hell, even LNZ was there. But I feel like because of how badly Nib has been managed from past to present, Res's like peak has been eaten up by that man. I'm so sad for him. And
Yeah.
he's so nice. He's even started to go gym now and he's looking better and he's looking his arms are looking good, man. He's strong. I'm obviously just gym watching, but I mean, this is
You're
this
just
is what
looking over the shoulder like this.
I'm like, look at those arms. Look at how he moves that mouse. But shit, man, that I feel bad for him. Like all that time on Nip, and I just realized he only had one trophy. And now you go to Gamer Legion. Like, I wonder how they're going to use him. There must be some ZTR push on that. What do you know? What do you know? Did you know anything?
No, but I mean CTR. I mean, it's always been in like the Swedish community. It's always been playing gathers together. I think CTR he started calling was like in gathers and stuff when he was very very young.
Okay.
I'm not even sure. I think probably six. He was probably 15 or something like that, and he was
Damn.
calling in Swedish like Swedish Pro League
Okay.
gathers.
Okay.
And I always, even back then, I thought that he had something for calling.
Nice.
So he's obviously developed a lot since back then.
Yeah.
Um, and now, being on just the cusp of being in the tier one. So yeah, I have a lot of faith in him as
I think
well.
it's a
And
good move for Game Legion because of the experience he brings to the rest of those young players.
yeah, and especially also, I think NIP transfer or like put him out for sale res as well before.
Okay.
So they probably just contacted and fair play. I think Ash
Yeah.
probably also needs someone that's a little bit more experienced, been
Yeah.
around the block for a couple of years.
Hmm.
So and also highly respected by players.
Yeah.
Knows
No
knows
drama around
how
him. Super nice.
yeah knows how he can probably help Ash kind
Yeah.
of keep the team in check as well to some extent. So I think that's a super good move. Hopefully, we get to see that kind of resurgence into form. Because
Resurgence.
like if you look at the NIP, like it could not have been nice to play and just keep rebuilding project after project and project after project, replacing
Insane. You go
players
insane. You would actually go insane.
like it must have been incredibly tough, and
Yeah.
hopefully he can kind of get rid of that and find a little bit more faith and belief in the project Every Game Legion, if that is where he's going to. But he's
I'd
definitely,
like it. I'm down for that
yeah,
move. I'm down for that move. All right, we got one more on Roster Mania. We've been on this for so long. Me
too
and
long.
Devilwalk are going to have to learn how to control timing on this because it's just me and him talking and enjoying and having fun on this. The last one we can do quite quickly. Oscar,
Yeah,
33-year-old young talent, is being sold by sinners, and he still is a super good AWPer. But my first thought when we now see Nork's bench, if they don't get Jambo, does he go to Fnatic? But do Fnatic really want a seasoned older player like that? Like, I don't know, man. I have no
that
idea.
that move wouldn't even make sense if I'm honest. I like
You got rid of Nork, you add Oscar. Like, huh?
no. I mean, I don't know where he would be going. Like, because it's not that he's not worth having in a team or anything like that. I think it's
Hmm.
just like an age issue. Like, how long is he going to be motivated? Are we looking for the future when we are signing a player like this?
Yeah,
Like, I think there's some longevity that
I agree.
especially the bigger orgs are looking for, because they, just like we mentioned with Crims and Res in NIP and Crims and Fnatic, they've kind of been the faces of that organization for so long, and that's what an organization wants. And I don't think Oscar can necessarily be that at the age that he is. He's not going to be able to build that kind of brand to player kind of recognition
Yeah.
combination. So I think
All right.
I have no clue where he would be ending up.
We'll have to wait and see. We'll talk about it on the second episode of the podcast. We'll get an update
Yeah,
on it all. We'll have an update on a lot of things for sure because one thing, it happened when we were doing the Evelone Cup, right? It was actually right at the end. We got to talk to Donk and Munacy about it. Is Vertigo and Train has come in. Now, I'm super happy because I really hate Vertigo. It was the worst map for me in Counter-Strike. I didn't think it was a Counter-Strike map. Like, it's not designed like a Counter-Strike map. Some people love it. Some people hate it. It's kind of like Marmite if you're from the UK, or Vegemite. I don't know if the slogan's the same out in Oz, but it's you either love it or you hate it. I hated Vertigo. But I will say this. Right now, the current version of Vertigo is better than the current version of Train, in my opinion. But all tournament organizers, PGL use it, Inclusion and Poker, ESL switched for it for Katowice, Blast instantly announced that it would happen. I want to tell everyone at home this is a good piece of information. Donk and the other pro teams were told by Valve that this was happening. They already knew it in advance before the announcement came out. Donk said that live on stream. So they
Yeah,
were
so they
aware, they
do.
were ready for it.
So probably a lot of teams, knew that this was going to be the case and have already set up practicing. And I am 100% sure that even though, I mean, as we get the news publicly,
Hmm.
there's like 5 days until the next ESL competition,
The lower
which
down events, right? The non
is,
top tier ones.
yeah, so it would be advanced, right?
Okay.
Advanced season starting January 13th, and then you have the ESL Challenger season starting
Hmm.
January 21. So obviously, I think admins, ESL, they probably contributed this information way earlier than we are getting it right now, for teams to make sure that they are ready to practice it. But it is, I don't know, like, as you were saying, Vertigo, a better, more polished map than Train is
Right
right now.
now, yeah.
Train is gonna need updates, and I think, I've just played a couple of like matchmaking games, a couple of Face It games
We had
on
a
it,
couple, yeah.
and I think the biggest issue is like Yard is so open, like there's nothing there, like
Yeah.
there's literally nothing.
It needs one
There's
more train at least. Like, because the sideways train doesn't
I,
really
I'm not
help.
I'm not a big fan of this like
Like,
twisted five train.
I'd love it to be. You can position it more to the right because I see what they're trying to do. You're trying to see from A main towards that like new part of Ivy that's covered up. Like Ivy now, by the way, is super safe to play. I play Ivy, so I'm a happy player. Like
Yeah.
I feel very comfortable. But if you're the player playing like site or towards A main, pop, electric box area, Jesus Christ, you're having a rough day. Like it's not fun.
But it's gonna be a lot like if I imagine like pro games, they're gonna smoke, both kind of Ivy positions off, where you can peek,
Yep.
and then just run over a site. The only real thing that I could see Cities doing is they have like a counter smoke. If they smoke here, we smoke out so that we can go left or right of the smoke to fight.
Hmm.
But even if you're Ivy, you need like it's just like it feels like you're one molo and two smokes away, and the complete A site is just like where are CT gonna stand?
Yeah.
Like they can't be standing anywhere. So I think it's gonna be very T based, and I don't expect us to see a lot of B plays on that map.
Yeah.
It's just gonna
It's
be an all out brawl on A pretty much every
just
round.
stacking it, and then if you gamble too hard on A, you end up getting a B hit coming, and see what can happen. Pop Dog, by the way, it's bigger, but it's awful. it's
I
they've taken
prefer the
away the
ladder.
ladder. Yeah, I love the ladder, man. The boomage Zeus kills constantly down there. Oh, I'll tell you this. Blade told me at the Shanghai Major, he said, because obviously Vertigo is their permaban, he said, we will play a 7 map pool if they add train.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Obviously, it might not be for the long term of it. Maybe they still hate Train. Maybe it doesn't work out for him. But he was obviously a huge, big fan of Train back in the 2021 Navi glory days. It was a great
Yeah,
map for them.
but he won't be as much of a fan in this train, I think.
it,
But
it,
yeah, but it's gonna need some updates. I
yeah.
think rotations for T like Pop is just such a weird spot now with that hallway.
It's bigger, right?
Um,
So if you want to fight as a CT inside of Pop, you can kind of jiggle it and poke in. But like the T's can take so much more control there. And if you're not fighting inside Pop, maybe you push a player early, lower to combat it. I don't know. When you
yeah,
try and crunch, but everything is such a risk because if you're that lower player and you die, they just okay, cool, we go beat this round.
my fear is just that it's gonna be less tactical and more just everyone rushes out yard,
Yeah.
and that the kind of slow approach is. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see how it ends up playing out in
But
pro games, but I'm
is it a
missing a few
positive?
positions.
Is it a positive change though? Because Vertigo is so less played and not so good.
I think yes, it will be a positive. It might be. It's gonna take a little bit of a hit. Like people are not gonna be able or want to play it as much, I think.
Yeah.
And I remember it's the same thing with like Vertigo coming. I remember they like changed Vertigo like 4 or 5 times. In the beginning of Vertigo, for example, there was um, there was a door in middle. Window didn't exist, right? There was
Mm-hmm.
an actual door you opened or blew up to walk into B site. and I think like the actual site was up a little bit on B, which made like where the wood area is when you peak stairs B. I think that was like a lower down, so you had to like jump up towards the site and stuff like that. And you had a wooden wall on A site instead of that metal.
Yeah.
And there was like a hole there that you could sneak into. Remember?
Okay. You used to be
Do you
able to
remember these
spam pop
bits?
dog. I remember the spamming pop dog. I remember the. It
But
was
like
what
on
was.
Vertigo here,
Are you talking about
like
Bro, Vertigo for me
yeah,
was always what was VIP map?
it was
The,
well.
the original Vertigo. Let me check. Let's see if I can get this right.
I mean,
Vertigo.
are you thinking of like this CS? What's it called?
I'm looking at a YouTube video now.
VIP map. Are you
Trying
thinking
to see.
about this one? Like one, yeah, you
With
started
the
with like
helicopter at
200
the end.
armor. Yeah. Was that Vertigo in 1.6?
Was it Vertigo or not? VIP maps, CS 1.6.
I'm not sure it's called Vertigo actually. I don't think it was. I think Vertigo original
It
one
had
was
the
where,
multi-layer, which is why it reminded me of Vertigo. Maybe I was wrong.
yeah, but I think in 1.6 it was like it's completely different. But
Yeah, by the way, it looks god
T
awful even in
spawned
1.6.
T spawned somewhere, and there was like a room you could walk up into, and there was a ladder directly to CT spawn.
Oh god.
That's how it looked before.
We were living in a wild world back then, man.
Yeah, and
uh,
no one played it, by the way. Like
yeah.
no one played
It
it.
was not a competitive map, that's for sure.
No, barely people would join a server with Vertigo in it
Somehow it got
casually.
into RCS map pool. Somehow this happened. It's kind of wild. But okay, so we know Vertigo's gone. It's a positive sign. Updates need to happen with this. Blast Bounty is our last touching point on here, and it's the first big event of 2025 of the new season. It has the most unique and original format, which I want to see more of from TOs while you've got this, while still holding competitive integrity in there. I'll be the desk host and then Interstage host interviewer for the event, but we don't have much time. So to try and
I'll
break
be
this
a
down,
I'll be a viewer for the event. I want to announce.
yes, you will get to view and see how this all goes down because it's 32 teams, right? Based on the Valve ranking, there's one wildcard invite. I thought the wildcard was going to be Falcons, but now they have a team that technically means they don't need to be a wildcard invite. So we'll have to see how it kind of pans out. But it's got its prize pool in here, right, for the main event. But they basically start in like an online stage at the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah, to
So
determine
32
who
teams
gets the
start
bounties.
online. Yes. Now, the teams with money on their heads to start off with, I'm just going to open. I got this screenshot in here because we went through this all. So there's the teams called the Most Wanted, and they are teams 1 to 16. Yeah. They have a split, and this you can see this all on the Blast rulebook, by the way. First sets of teams, right? It's first to fourth have $60,000 on their heads. Then fifth all the way down to eighth has $30,000 on their head. Then ninth to 12th have 20,000, and then 13 to 16 have 15,000. The other 16 teams have no money. They're bounty hunters, and they need to go out and pick. So say you're, I don't know, let's just say your phase is the number 1 seed. Let's just use that as an example, yeah? And then Big, they're 22nd, but they say we've been owning phase in practice. I'm going to go and pick into phase. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then if Big beat phase, they can take their money from them and go further forward and obviously get a boost in the rankings of it all. And this is how the bounty system will work across all of it. It
And also,
becomes
it's a bit complicated also because I think it's if the first game the bounty is available to steal, if I have it correctly. But
yep,
then if you with a team with a bounty winning against another team with a bounty,
yep.
your bounty becomes crystallized.
Which means you get like you well, when you explain
It's
crystallize,
like
they lock it in.
safekeeping.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's your money. You've got some money in there.
Yeah, and it's quite a interesting format. Obviously, something I've never
It's
ever seen
poker
before.
style. It's poker style. You see the inspiration from it.
Yeah, and essentially, you're gonna pick teams. Maybe one team has more money, but it's much harder to beat, and then maybe one team is, feels like the easier matchup, but you might be
Hmm.
swayed to pick the harder team just because they have a bigger bounty, right?
Or hear this as well. This is what's crazy. So once they've gone through and had a crystallized amount, yeah, they got a crystallized bounty, so the money's saved. They can actually say to the other team, both teams have to agree, by the way, that we'll fight for all bounty. So put all your money where your mouth is. You're going to beat us and do
It's
this
like
kind of
all
thing.
in.
All in, yeah, like an all-in style. That's crazy. But it says both teams of the qualifying wager match must wager the same amount of prize money, and the minimum amount of wager is 5,000 per team. A team cannot wager more than 100% of its banked prize money, obviously.
Yeah,
It
but
makes
it's
it
gonna
very
be.
fun.
It makes it fun. It
For
makes
my job, it makes my
you.
great content for doing interviews.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of talking about this system, I think, during the tournament to get people to understand because
Bro, I'm going to have to explain it
it,
35 times.
even I am, as I'm reading it, is not completely clear of how this will look like. But it's a cool concept.
Let me try and let me break it down for you guys simply. Yeah, I'm going to read this directly from the PDF I was sent.
Yeah.
Prize pools 100% distributed by bounty. So that's the whole 500k is distributed by that. Teams are assigned a bounty based on their seed in the tournament. Teams face off in single elimination format. When a team wins a match, they secure 50% of the bounty won as a guaranteed payout. 50% of the bounty carries over to the next match and gets added to the team's total bounty, reseeding after each round. Winning team takes over the highest seed. So you take the seed of the team that you beat.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
then all in challenge. Once both teams have secured a bounty, they have the option to play for up to what both teams have guaranteed. This requires both teams to accept. Does that make it simpler for you?
Yeah.
Yeah. But very interesting. But just let's look at the teams here, mate. Let's go through this. For the starting event, yeah, which obviously in Blast history, we've never had it. We've had a lot of good teams, but we've never had this. We've got Spirit, G2, Navi, Vitality, Mouse, FaZe, Mongols, Liquid, Furia, Falcons, Astralis, MIBR, Eternal Fire, Pain, 3D Max, Complexity, Virtus Pro, Gamer Legion, Wildcard, Saw, Big, FlyQuest, M80, Bait. That's awesome. Sangao. Obviously, that might change with this heroic thing, right? Like how that's going to work out. Namiga, Ents, Nine Pandas, Fluxo, Imperial Female, and Heroic.
Yeah.
Pretty legit.
There's a lot of good teams, also some kind of wildcard teams. It's interesting to have a 32 team tournament.
Remember, it starts off online as well, and it is single
Yeah.
elimination. Then we go through to stage 2, round of 16. So, like, that's once you've qualified through, and then it goes into this blast bounty, like the main event for it all. But the
But
prize
it is
money is
also
very split.
like, yeah, but it's also interesting, that it's a qualifier where all the top teams they have a risk of actually not making it to the event or
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it. Uh, and I think that makes it a lot more interesting because no one's safe.
Yep.
Gives what we talked about
No more
earlier.
pointless
Gives the
matches.
Yeah, and it gives the chance of a Sangal to make it through. It's obviously a tough qualifying event
Yeah.
or stage, but I'm sure we're gonna be able to see someone kind of squeeze through and make a little bit of an upset early on in the year.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Especially with
essentially,
all
I
the
think all of
changes.
these, yeah, but especially like the top teams, they're the absolute weakest this time of year. Because normally some of these teams like Sangal, Nemiga, or Meiti or Bait, they'll probably not take as much of a player break as the actual top teams. They
Yes, and they
might
might
want
have
to
come back
prepare
earlier,
and
right?
yeah,
Fallacy said he's
just to
back
get
today, didn't he? Did he say back today or tomorrow? I think I saw Taz was flying out today on Instagram, so maybe they start tomorrow.
yeah, he had a boot camp. I
Yeah.
remember he talking
Serbia.
about it. Yeah,
Some teams are boot camping in Serbia for the HLTV awards as well. HLTV always do it where
that
they
makes
can play
sense.
there before and then go. That's good,
That's
man.
makes sense, but it's an interesting concept, and it's gonna be fun to see, at as well top teams kind of grinding out and trying to
Yeah.
fight for their spot instantly. Because I remember, in a lot of teams, even when we speak about the major,
Hmm.
the first stage is when most teams are the most worried, even the top teams, right?
Yeah, yeah.
They're actually shaky. They're like, oh fuck, we could actually lose
Opening
our
game of
our
the
place.
season as well.
Yeah. So I think the most nerves is always in like group stages and qualifying stages. That's when the pressure gets you the most. It's not when you're on the playoff, like we're playing a semi-final. It's not. That's not where like your internal pressure gets you.
Yeah.
Maybe external, but not internal. Your internal pressure to like kind of not qualify for the event is almost tougher for some of these players than the external one. So it's going
Does,
to be really fun to see.
the fact that you're going to view it as well and you've seen all this and we've just spoke about the format, does it make you excited, honestly? Does it give you like a good feeling for the
I'm
start of the season?
definitely like I'm excited to see it because it's kind of like a first of its kind.
Yeah.
But I want to see it play out before I'm like, okay, I'm definitely watching the next season of
Yeah,
this
yeah.
bounty thing. It might be really fun, like a concept like a serious tournament with this kind of. Do you remember that clip? When was it Gob B who said like, "Fuck," or when they were picking maps, like the viewers could pick maps or something like that. There
Oh,
was an event.
what? What?
This is way back. Wait, go B.
Viewers could pick maps.
Find out who's going to be
Sounds
taking
like a
on mouse
terrible
sports.
idea.
Just a
Sounds
question:
This
more
when
of a
you
go
show
first
match.
B.
got back in to play SK
I'm
Gaming,
gonna.
and you were put in by the
I think.
people supposedly
Okay,
part of your
I'm gonna
past.
send you this
Was
clip.
that a predetermined
Where do
plan?
you
We
want
didn't know
it?
if you'd want to play
Discord.
it.
Discord, yeah,
Well, it
Discord.
seems like they've gone all hush hush on the
So
event.
this is
I
like
thought,
We can get our
well, we're out
talented
there,
editor
we're
to add
ready
this
to
in as well.
IEM
Watch this.
Gamescom
thought
Oh
2015.
my
the easiest
god.
win for us 'cause we were able
OJ
to
looks so
win the way
young.
obliged. So we got the team.
Wait, I'm
Look, and
watching.
it's
Not
just
far
like
behind the
they're
madness,
sitting
right then,
there,
you are in control, even though you've blown your shoes off. There's no shoes on this man just right
and
here.
he picks like a
You get to choose
square,
the
and
map.
it's like
These have been
viewers, I
determined by the
think,
community, 8
who
random
have
votes.
voted these
Vote
maps
You've got to
in.
vote
5.
for certain maps. Obviously, there'll be more behind there. This is how it goes. It's your turn on the game show.
Last time I picked number one, so this
It's
time
like
number
at like
two.
15
Number 2,
seconds
what's
he kind
behind
of
door number 2? It is
reacts to it.
just 2.
Oh
Thank you
my
very much
god.
to Leon Duffler. And there's a happy man to my left because one person who's predetermined is Gobby from Mouse
It could
Sports,
be
presumably
like kind
W's
of like
Games.
one
You
of
happy
these
about playing
events
Dust
as
2?
well. Like
Yeah, I
it's
am. All right then.
not
In that
as
case,
goofy as
it's time
this
for you
one,
to
maybe,
choose
but
who
Yeah,
you're going to
no, a
play.
bit
Before
more,
you do anything, I want to tell you,
a bit
a
more
bit more serious. But at
serious.
the
Yeah,
same time, we could get these kind of like awkward moments where like players and teams don't really know how to react or make sense of it all
wait,
themselves.
I'm gonna have to do my job of like trying to get them to be like, okay, why did you pick him? You know, why did you go in for this? How's this working out? That kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I mean, it's going to be the
Yeah,
teams, you talents, the viewers kind of exploring this tournament together.
it makes
So
me
I think
more
it could be
invested.
fun.
It makes
Yeah,
me more invested for sure.
it could be
But
fun.
we have gone on for the first episode a long
Yeah.
time, but it was an enjoyable time. The first episode of All About Counter Strike is over. Normally, though, and this is for all of you guys who have still stayed on to watch all of this, at the end of each show, we'll be doing a Q&A. We'll take the questions and answer them for you live on the show in our Discord. There'll be a link everywhere to the Discord. You can see all information on our website as well. So that's over on allaboutcs.gg. You can see every single option. So all the podcast platforms, all your favorite platforms on there, YouTube as well. Wherever you want to listen, wherever you want to watch, we will make it available for you guys every single time. And hopefully you've enjoyed it. Hopefully you like what we've got. We will have guests on for future episodes. A couple of players already agreed, but I'm not going to spoil the guests who they are yet. Maybe if you were watching the live stream, you would have seen one of them say yes before, but I'll leave it at that. And Devilwalk, just how did you find it, man? Our first one in the books.
No, it's fun. I was more nervous about recording this than ever, I think. But it feels good. It's always nice to have a good friend, kind of talking Counter Strike with.
Yeah.
You do it way too little these days. Just kind of break things down, learn as you go. So I think everyone, hopefully had a good time listening to us. And if you have any feedback, you can always come at us. It's going to be a learning experience for us
Yeah.
as we develop, the whole format of the podcast. So, it was super enjoyable. So
Yeah, this is just the beginning. We're going to stay consistent with it. We're going to keep delivering them for you. And GG's until then. Devil, can you see the camera? Fist bump.
Fist bump.